شريك لك لبيك.
Good evening. Tonight is the night of Eid al-Adha. I'm speaking from Mashaer al-Haram, where we are to perform wuquf, which is the third obligatory act of Hajj al-Tamattu. This place has a second name also. It is called Muzdalifah. When leaving Arafat, you see signboards which read beginning of Muzdalifah. And when you are leaving Muzdalifah for Mina on the way, there are signboards which read end of Muzdalifah. All pilgrims depart Arafat after sunset, and they come here to stay for the night in obedience to God. They are here from dawn to sunrise with the intention of wuquf. Tomorrow morning, everyone will set out for Mina to perform the rituals of Eid al-Adha. The distance between Arafat and Mashaer al-Haram is approximately 5 kilometers, but it is not very far from Mashaer al-Haram to Mina. There is only the Mashaer Valley in between, which is not more than 300 meters. The three places, Arafat, Mashaer al-Haram and Mina, are located one after the other. As I mentioned earlier, first the pilgrims go to Arafat, then they come to Mashaer al-Haram to stay here tonight. Then tomorrow, after sunrise, they will move simultaneously to Mina. Arafat is out of Haram boundary, whereas Mina and Mashaer al-Haram are within the boundary of Haram. What is obligatory on the pilgrims is being here and staying at this place. The pilgrim's intention must be absolute obedience to God. As part of the obligatory act of Hajj, it is necessary to be here from the morning adhan until sunrise with the intention of wuquf or staying. Our intention to stay here for tonight in obedience to God's order is sufficient in terms of the niyyah, which is one of the necessary acts of Hajj al-Tamattu. If our intention is to be here for wuquf as an obligatory act of Hajj al-Tamattu, and if we then fall asleep, there would be no problem, even if we wake up after the morning adhan. We will leave for Mina after sunrise to perform the rituals of Eid al-Adha. It is mustahab to praise and glorify the oneness of Allah here in this place. The Holy Quran also states that when you enter Mashaer al-Haram, you should engage in supplications. You can recite short zikrs, words of prayer, like Allahu Akbar, La ilaha illallah, and Subhanallah. There are short supplications which can be read at Mashaer al-Haram. Another mustahab act to do here is to collect pebbles for tomorrow, which is the 8th day, and for the 11th and 12th day. The pebbles will be used for stoning the jamara, or pillars. Although pebbles have to be collected from the Haram area, there would be no problem if they are collected from the city of Mecca. It is permissible to collect pebbles at Mashaer al-Haram, and there would be no objection in doing so. However, pebbles cannot be collected from Arafat because, as I mentioned earlier, Arafat is located outside of the Haram boundary. It is recommended to collect the pebbles from Mashaer al-Haram on Eid Eve, that is, this night. Since recently some barriers have been put up at some places, it is difficult for pilgrims to get access to mountains and surroundings where pebbles could be found. For this reason, there would be no problem if they collect pebbles anywhere in the city of Mecca. However, if pilgrims are staying at a place in Mashaer al-Haram where they have access to pebbles, they should collect them on Eid Eve. It is mustahab to collect them in pebble from not as rocks. Although breaking a rock into pebbles is free of objection, it is better to collect pebbles. It is better for the stones to be the thickness of a finger. They should not be so small as to be considered gravel, nor should they be so large as to hurt people if they do not hit the target. The stones should not be flat either, and they must not be so small as to become invisible for you when you are throwing them at the pillars. It is not necessary to collect the pebbles by yourself. That is to say, if someone else collects them and gives them to you, there would be no objection in doing so, though it is desirable to collect the stones yourself and not to break a rock to make small pebbles. There would be, however, no objection to breaking a rock if one fails to find pebbles. This was a brief explanation about Wuquf, staying at Mashaer al-Haram. Tomorrow morning we will proceed to Mina after sunrise, which is determined through the announced timings, because there are high mountains here and sunrise cannot be ascertained until the sun rises high in the sky. When it is sunrise time, you should wait for some minutes as a measure of precaution.
لبيك اللهم لبيك لبيك لا شريك لك لبيك إن الحمد والنعمة لك والملك لا شريك لك لبيك لا شريك لك لبيك.
This morning we left Mashaer al-Haram for Mina after sunrise. We are now here in Mina to perform the Eid al-Adha day rituals like Ramy of Jamaratul Aqaba and shaving or cutting of hair. These are the necessary acts which have to be done in the Eid day. First we will do Ramy of Aqaba pillar, then we will offer the sacrifice, and finally we will do taqsir or shave our heads. I need to tell you something about the Ramy of Aqaba pillar. When you enter Mina from the Mashaer al-Haram side and proceed forward, as you are seeing the pilgrims, some of whom are now going to stone the pillar and some others are returning, you find these stone pillars near the end of Mina area, next to Khif Mosque. The first pillar is called Ula, the second one is called Wusta or middle pillar, and the third one is called Aqaba or Kubra pillar. On the 8th day we have to pass by the first and second pillars and throw pebbles only at the Aqaba pillar, which is the third one. I should like to explain to you some issues in connection with the pebbles and the manner of stoning the pillar. As I mentioned earlier, the pebbles should neither be so small as to be considered gravels, nor should they be so big as to be considered large stones. They should be of the thickness of a finger. Bigger or smaller than that is not appropriate. Another thing is that the pebbles should be collected from within the haram boundary, not from outside of the boundary. The city of Mecca and parts of the surroundings area are included in the boundary of the haram. That is to say, if pebbles are collected from the city of Mecca or from Mashaer al-Haram and Mina, there will be no objection, though it is desirable to collect the stones from Mashaer al-Haram while staying there on Eid Eve. The next relevant issue is that the stones you are going to use for shooting the pillar should be unused. That is to say, they should not have been used previously for the same purpose. That is why it is good to collect pebbles from Mashaer al-Haram. Do not use pebbles that have been poured near the pillars, because they might be used pebbles. One more issue to explain with regard to pebbles is that the pebbles should be mubah, meaning they should be your own pebbles. Of course, if someone else collects pebbles and gives them to you, there should be no problem in using them. But be careful not to pick up others' stones bags mistakenly, as this might happen with some of you. It is not necessary for the pebbles to be ritually clean, but if they are, it would be better. And one who is doing ram is not required to be in the state of ritual purity, but to be in the state of wudu is mustahab. The next question is how many pebbles are required to hit the pillar. The answer is that it is necessary to stone the pillars with 7 pebbles, not more nor less. However, if you have thrown 7 pebbles and you entertain a doubt as to whether or not all the 7 pebbles hit the pillar, you must throw more stones until you are sure that 7 pebbles have hit the pillar. It is, however, not necessary that the 7 stones hit the pillar one after the other. For example, you have thrown 3 pebbles and you now throw the 4th, but it does not hit the pillar. So you throw the 5th stone. The 5th stone is considered as the 4th stone, and there would be no objection in this. In addition, it is necessary that the stones must reach the jamra by being aimed at it and not merely deposited there. Thus, if you go near the pillar and put your stones over there, it would not be sufficient. Usually such a thing does not happen because you have to throw your stones owing to the overwhelming crowd. You should know that it is mustahab to shoot the pillars with your back towards the Qibla. To do so, it is desirable and not obligatory. For doing this, you will have to pass the pillar and go to the other side because Qibla is in this direction and you will have to throw your stones from the other side. Since the Jamra is overcrowded on a day, there would be no problem if you shoot the pillar from any direction. It doesn't matter if you don't perform this mustahab act. It is, however, recommended to say takbir each time you are throwing your pebbles at the aqaba as well as other pillars, because saying takbir is a way of expressing love and unity with the monotheists and hatred towards the polytheists and party of Satan. These 3 pillars, including Jamaratul Aqaba, which we are going to stone, are symbols of Satan, which tempted Hazrat Ibrahim when he was going to sacrifice Hazrat Ismail. The Prophet pelted stones at Satan, and as far as he could, he repelled him. In reality, we are doing this in order to fight the satanic forces. Whether we are in Arafat or in any other part of Mecca, we have to engage in supplications and recitations of the Holy Quran and detach ourselves from God's enemies. There is a famous report that the Bara'at chapter of the Holy Quran was recited for the pilgrims by Imam Ali at the behest of the Holy Prophet, either in Arafat or in Mina. After stoning Jamaratul Aqaba, we must sacrifice an animal in the way of God, and then we must do taksir. Therefore, to conclude, the obligations of the day of Eid al-Adha, including stoning Jamaratul Aqaba, sacrifice and taksir or shaving. As for sacrifice, I will take about it from within the slaughterhouses. As you know, the pilgrims must slaughter an animal in the way of God as one of the obligatory acts of Tamattu Hajj. The animals which they slaughter can be a camel, a cow or a sheep. Normally, the pilgrims sacrifice sheep. There are certain conditions which regard to the animals which are sacrificed there. Normally the people who go to the slaughterhouses are well acquainted with the conditions. They know how old an animal is and whether it is healthy or not. The important thing to note here is that every pilgrim can do the sacrifice through a proxy, so he can authorize someone else to go to the place of sacrifice and slaughter an animal on his behalf. Ladies are absolutely not allowed to enter in the slaughterhouses. The place is too small to incorporate all men as well. Therefore, it is not possible for all male pilgrims to go to the slaughterhouses. What they often do is authorize a few people from each caravan to sacrifice animals on behalf of each pilgrim. May God reward those who undertake such a responsibility. I would like to request sincerely those who might go to the slaughterhouses to learn in a private meeting with the caravan cleric all the conditions that an animal should have. You must learn the necessary conditions related to slaughtering the animal. It is necessary that you slaughter an animal in the direction of Qibla and do not forget to recite Bismillah. Take care of everything. The pilgrims who have done ram or stoning must inform those who are supposed to perform sacrifice on their behalf. You must not shave or do taqsir as long as you have not been informed of the completion of the sacrifice on your behalf. That is to say, you should wait until those who have gone to the slaughterhouses inform you that they have done sacrifice on your behalf. Thereupon, if your duty is to shave your head, you will do so, and if your duty is to taqsir, you will do taqsir. The rituals of Eid al-Adha Day are completed with the shaving or taqsir. According to many grand jurists, those who are performing Hajj for the first time, irrespective of whatever they are performing Hajj for themselves or on another's behalf, must shave their heads. Others give the option of their shaving a head or doing taqsir. In any case, shaving is preferred and more virtuous.
لبيك اللهم لبيك لبيك لا شريك لك لبيك إن الحمد والنعمة لك والملك لا شريك لك لبيك لا شريك لك لبيك.
Tonight is the night of 11th day of Zilhajjah, and yesterday was the 8th day. I'm speaking from among a gathering of the pilgrims of the house of God who are staying in Mina. As you know, the pilgrims wore the ihram garbs in the evening of the 8th of Zilhajjah. They left Mecca for Arafat yesterday, which was the day of Arafat. The pilgrims were in the plain of Arafat, or the land of cognition. Then the pilgrims simultaneously came out of Arafat for Mashaer al-Haram, which is also called Muzdalifah. Muzdalifah literally means a place where people converge all at once. This morning all the pilgrims departed Muzdalifah for Mina and performed Ramj, sacrifice, shaving and taqsir as the obligations of the day of Eid al-Adha. You can see the pilgrims, some of whom have shaved their heads, and some who are not performing Hajj for the first time have done taqsir. Some of the pilgrims might have done Ramy, but they have not been able to sacrifice an animal. They will do so tomorrow, God willing. At the end of the 8th day, on the 11th and 12th nights of Zilhajjah, the pilgrims must stay in Mina from the beginning of the night until midnight. This act is called Baytuta in Arabic, which means overnight stay in Mina.
بیتوته در منا. بیتوته یعنی شب.
Midnight has to be calculated from sunset to sunrise. The time in between sunset and sunrise is considered midnight. The pilgrims have to stay in Mina during the night's first portion. According to some jurists, those of pilgrims who, due to some problems, fail to be here during the first part of the night can stay in Mina during the night's second part. The caravan leader or cleric, however, will guide you about calculating midnight time. He will also let you know the rulings of various prominent jurists. I have to tell you briefly that in addition to staying here until midnight on the 11th and 12th night of Dhul Hijjah, it is necessary for every pilgrim to set his mind on performing this act of worship in the hope of attaining closeness to Allah. It is not necessary to say aloud one's intention of staying in Mina. To bear in mind that he will stay here tonight and tomorrow night is sufficient. To pronounce the niyyah verbally is not required. The act of saying here, as I said, is an obligatory duty which should be performed with the intention of seeking nearness to God. Tomorrow night, which is the 12th night of Dhul Hijjah, you will stay here in the same manner. Tomorrow, the 11th, and day after tomorrow, the 12th of Dhul Hijjah, the pilgrims will stone the 3 Jamaras. They will have to stone them in the same manner that they stoned the Jamaratul Aqaba. On the day of Eid al-Adha, the pilgrims had to cross the Ola and Wusta Jamaras and stone the last pillar known as Jamaratul Aqaba. However, tomorrow they will have to stone all the 3 pillars, beginning with Ula Jamara. They have to hit the pillar with 7 stones. Then they should move on to the Wusta Jamara, that is the middle pillar. And finally, the Aqaba pillar, hitting each Jamara with 7 stones. We are now near the Jamara, the 3 pillars which we have to stone to fulfill another obligatory duty of Hajj. As I mentioned earlier, today the 11th and tomorrow the 12th of Dhul Hijjah, we are going to stone the 3 pillars, each with 7 stones. As we move in the direction of the pillars from the place we stayed, we first come across Khif Mosque. Just as we pass the mosque, we reach Ula Jamra, the first pillar to be pelted with 7 stones. Then as you proceed, you reach the middle pillar, which also pelted with 7 stones. Finally, there is the Aqaba Jamra, which has to be hit with 7 stones as explained before. I also told you that it is mustahab to say takbir each time you throw a stone at the pillars. It is also mustahab to stone the first and second pillars while you are facing Qibla. You are actually facing the Qibla when you are coming along the way to the pillars. However, unlike the first and second pillars, it is mustahab to stone the Aqaba pillars with your backs towards the Qibla. Since it is mustahab act, it does not matter if you cannot stone the pillars from the preferred directions. When you have stoned the 3 pillars on the 11th day, you must stay in Mina for the ensuing night. Again tomorrow on the 12th of Dhul Hijjah, you must stone all the pillars in the same manner. I would like to request you to take away your stone bags with you and do not leave them near the pillars. Some people are seen throwing plastic bags or whatever they have with them at the pillars. That is not good, and you have to take these things with you and throw them elsewhere in a proper place. I explained to you the rules in connection with the pebbles and throwing them. You should stone the pillars in the same manner that you stoned the Aqaba pillar. Therefore, tomorrow and the day after tomorrow, what the pilgrims are supposed to do is stone the 3 pillars. The time for stoning starts from sunrise to sunset. The pilgrims have to stone the pillars within this time. When the pillars offer their morning prayers, they will set out for stoning the Jamara, that is, the 3 pillars. The distance between the places where the pilgrims stay and the Jamara is a bit long, so the pilgrims must note that Jamara is located between two ranges of mountains. The time of sunrise is not very clear to the eyes, so make sure to act according to the announced time of sunrise. If you are not sure, act on precaution and wait until you are sure that the sun has risen. You have time from sunrise to sunset to throw your stones. You have an entire day to fulfill this obligation, but you must not leave or delay throwing the stones until nightfall. On the 12th day of the Zilhijjah, the pilgrims can go to Mecca. You must note that you can go out of Mina after Zuhr Adhan. You must hear the call for prayer from the nearby mosque, and you might not, but you must exercise precaution in this regard so that you will not have acted against your duty. To be brief, the pilgrims who have performed Ramy before noon can leave Mina after Zuhr Azan. They should not leave the area before this time. I should tell you one thing more as well. If a pilgrim does not go out of Mina on the 12th day and stays here at sunset until nightfall, he can stone the Jamara again on Zilhijjah 13th. Usually this does not happen because the caravan leaders make the schedules in such a manner that you complete the stoning before Adhan and depart Mina for Mecca after Zuhr Adhan. Let me tell you in brief once again that Mina obligations include 3 acts on the 8th day. They are stoning the Aqaba pillar, sacrifice and shaving or taksir. These obligations have to be performed on the 8th day. 2 other acts are related to staying in Mina, and 2 others are related to the 11th and 12th days of Zilhijjah, which involve throwing 7 stones as each other of the pillars. Although the Mecca obligations can be performed after the 8th day, obligations they are called the obligatory acts after Mina, which include Tawaf of Hajj or the pilgrimage Tawaf. You can also perform some of the obligatory acts like Sa'i between Safa and Marwa, Tawaf of Hajj, Tawaf prayer, and Tawaf Nisa on the 8th day when you have finished shaving or taksir. For example, looking into a mirror, plucking one's hair, wearing rings for ornamental purposes, and such like, which were forbidden during the Ihram, all become halal after shaving or taksir, except for using scents like aromatic soap and toothpaste, which remain haram. Also, husband and wife remain haram for each other until the Hajj obligations are completely over, whereupon they will become halal for each other as before. And those acts which were forbidden before Ihram, like lying and cursing, etc., remain permanently forbidden.
شلوغی راه هم هست وسیله و امکانات هم الان
The duty of the pilgrims for the 11th and 12th nights of Zilhijjah is to stay in Mina only. They are not obligated to do anything else. To be in Mina on these nights is an obligation which the pilgrims have to fulfill. Of course, there are many mustahab acts like that can be performed at Mina, the land of aspirations and wishes. Mina is the place where Hazrat Abraham brought his dear son Ismail to be sacrificed. He acted according to his duty and did what he was asked to do. This is the place where they repulsed satanic temptations and fought Satan. Nowadays, when we are going to Jamarat and pelt the 3 pillars with stones, we are actually pledging to Abraham that we will also fight Satans, regardless of whether they are jinn Satans or human Satans, who are the enemies of Islam as Muslims, which we have to fight. Outwardly, we are pelting stones at some pillars, but there is an inner aspect in it which should have an impact on us. Here we are to ask whatever wishes we have entertained in our hearts. We should engage in supplications and prayers during these 2 nights. It does not make a problem if we are gone to sleep during Beituta overnight state during these 2 nights. In any case, this is where you should avail the time and opportunity. It is only once in a whole year.
یعنی همین که شب رو در اینجا در منا میمانیم قربتاً الله به عنوان یکی از اعمال حج، این وظیفه انجام شده است. اما مستحبات زیاد است. اینجا سرزمین مناست، سرزمین آرزوها، محل قربانگاه است، قربانگاه اسماعیل، اینجا که حضرت ابراهیم علیه و علی نبینا و آله السلام فرزند خودش رو در پیشگاه الهی به قربانگاه آورد و طبق وظیفه تا اونجایی که وظیفه داشت عمل کرد و در همین مکان بود که وساوس شیطانی رو کنار زد و با شیطان مبارزه کرد. و ما امروز وقتی که به جمرات میریم و جمرات سگانه رو سنگ میزنیم، در حقیقت داریم اون خاطره ها رو تجدید میکنیم و با ابراهیم و ابراهیمیان تجدید عهد میبندیم که ما هم در زندگیمون با شیاطین مبارزه خواهیم کرد، چه شیاطین جنی که مربوط به خودمون هست و نفس اماره، و چه شیاطین انسی که به هر حال دشمنان اسلام و مسلمین هستند که باید با اونها هم مبارزه کرد که حقیقتا اونها هم شیطان هستند. یعنی صرف این که ما اینجا به یک چند تا ستون سنگ میزنیم این ظاهر عمل هست، اما باطنی دارد که باید به هر حال در ما اثر کند. در این سرزمین باید اون چرا که خداوند میخواهیم بطلبیم از او، دعاهای بسیار زیاد. این بخش از شب رو که بیتوته میکنید یه قسمتیش رو به عبادت خداوند و راز و نیاز با خداوند سپری کنید، بخشی هم که استراحت میکنید. اشکال نداره در حال بیتوته آدم خواب هم باشه، مانعی ندارد. اما به هر حال سرزمین منا و عرفات و مشعر فقط اینجاست، جای دیگه گیر نمی آید و فرصت شب 11 و شب 12 هم در سال یک بار است، باز دوباره تکرار نمی شود تا سال دیگر. و همچنین روز عرفه تا که زنده باشد و چه کسی را قسمت بشود که به این سرزمین آید، دیگه اونش با خداوند است. به هر حال این فرصت های طلایی رو از دست ندهید و به خوبی ازش استفاده کنید در همین سرزمین مقدس. و در این شب عزیز پس از عید قربان، بعد از اینکه این حجاج اعمالشون را انجام دادن، یعنی اعمال امروز را انجام دادن و به خواست خداوند عیدی میگیرن از خداوند، عیدی شما بینندگان رو هم از خداوند میطلبیم زیارت این اماکن و انجام این اعمال باشد ان شاء الله.
لبیک اللهم لبیک لبیک لا شریک لک لبیک ان الحمد والنعمت لك والملك لا شريك لك لبيك لا شريك لك لبيك.
I am in Mashaer al-Haram, speaking to you from near Kaaba and praying to Almighty Allah to grant us success in visiting this holy place. Well, following the obligations of Mina, we have now come to Mashaer al-Haram to perform some of the obligatory acts which are called Mecca obligations. These obligatory acts are Tawaf of Hajj, Tawaf prayer, Sa'i between Safa and Marwa, Tawaf al-Nisa and its prayer. We have 3 kinds of Tawafs and 3 pairs in total. They are Tawaf of Umrah to Tamattu, Tawaf of Hajj to Tamattu and Tawaf al-Nisa. Each of the Tawaf has a prayer which has to be offered immediately after the Tawaf is complete. There are 2 main differences among these Tawafs and their prayers. The first difference is in the intention. we perform the first tawaf with the intention of tawaf of Umrah Tamattu and offer its prayer with the intention of prayer of Umrah Tamattu. Likewise, we perform Tawaf al-Nisa and offer its prayer with the intention of Tawaf al-Nisa and Tawaf al-Nisa prayer. The second difference is that we wear ihram when performing Umrah Tamattu, but we do not wear it during Tawaf al-Hajj and Tawaf al-Nisa as well as their prayers. This is because when we shaved or did taksir in Mina, we took off the ihram clothes. We came to Mecca to perform the remaining obligatory acts like Tawaf of Hajj, its prayer, sa'i between Safa and Marwa, Tawaf al-Nisa and its prayer. I explained to you the rules in connection with these obligations. There was no difference in the law related to circumambulation. However, you must perform tawaf with ritually pure clothes, and you must complete 7 rounds of circumambulation or tawaf, each beginning at the black stone and ending at it. The first difference is in the intention. We perform the first tawaf with the intention of tawaf of Umrah Tamattu and offer its prayer with the intention of prayer of Umrah Tamattu. Likewise, we perform Tawaf al-Nisa and offer its prayer with the intention of Tawaf al-Nisa and Tawaf al-Nisa prayer. The second difference is that we wear ihram when performing Umrah Tamattu, but we do not wear it during Tawaf or Hajj and Tawaf al-Nisa as well as their prayers. This is because when we have shaved or did taksir in Mina, we took off the ihram clothes. We came to Mecca to perform the remaining obligatory acts like Tawaf of Hajj, its prayer, sa'i between Safa and Marwa, Tawaf al-Nisa and its prayer. As I explained to you the rules in connection with these obligations, there is no difference in the law related to circumambulation. However, you must perform tawaf with ritually pure clothes and you must complete 7 rounds of circumambulation or tawaf, each beginning at the black stone and ending at it. While doing tawaf, the left shoulder should face the Kaaba. You must not enter Hijr Ismail, the enclosure of Ismail. Mecca obligations do not differ from those of Umrah circumambulation and its prayer except for the Niyyah. After Tawaf of Hajj and its prayer, you are going to perform sa'i between Safa and Marwa, which also includes 7 rounds. Sa'i starts from Safa and ends at Marwa. After sa'i, you are going to perform Tawaf al-Nisa and offer its prayer. There are some relevant issues which I should explain. As I told earlier, Mecca obligations can be performed after the obligatory rituals of the 8th day. That is to say, when on the 8th day we have done Rami or Jamaratul Aqaba and done sacrifice and taksir or shaving, we can come to Mecca to perform the post-Mina duties. According to most jurisprudence, we have time to carry out these duties until the end of the month of Zihajjah. However, as long as we have not done these obligatory acts, we have to avoid some of the prohibited acts which I have referred to in my speech already. When we have shaved or done taksir, many of the prohibited acts which were prohibited under ihram become permissible, like looking in the mirror, plucking hair, walking in the shade, and such like, except for using scents, perfumes, and for husband and wife who remain forbidden for each other. Using perfume becomes permissible when tawaf of Hajj, its prayer and sa'i between Safa and Marwa have been completed. But husband and wife remain forbidden for each other until they have performed Tawafun Nisa and offered its prayer. The next issue to mention is that Tawaf and its prayer should take place one after the other. There should not be a gap between them. However, there would be no objection in delaying the sa'i between Safa and Marwa, though it should be accomplished before the end of Zil Hijjah. The next issue to explain is Tawafun Nisa and its prayer. Tawafun Nisa is not a duty of men only. Women also should perform Tawafun Nisa. They will be haram for each other as long as they have not performed it. Even if an unmarried boy or girl does not perform this Tawaf and offer its prayer, he or she cannot marry in the future. Therefore, it is obligatory upon every married and unmarried individual to perform Tawafun Nisa and read its special prayer. The pilgrims should return to Mina on the 10th day to stay in Mina on the night of the 11th day of Zil Hijjah. They should do Ram on the 11th and 12th day. Again, they have to stay in Mina for the 12th night. The pilgrims can also return to Mecca on the 11th day of Zil Hijjah, but they should return to Mina to stay there on the 12th night. However, if Mecca obligations are performed after the 12th day of Zil Hijjah, the entire rituals come to an end after Tawafun Nisa and its prayer. To conclude, we put on the Ihram on the 8th or on the night of the 9th of Zil Hijjah or in the morning of the same day and left Mecca for Arafat, where we stayed from midday till sunset. Then we departed for Mashaer al-Haram to be there at night. On the 8th day, we went to Mina. We stoned Jamratul Aqaba, sacrificed, and then shaved our heads or did taksir. Then on the night of the 11th and 12th, we stayed in Mina. We stayed for one half of the nights with the intention of Baytuta, overnight stay. Then on the 11th and 12th days, we hit the 3 jamras or pillars with stones. After all these obligations, we came back to Mecca to perform Tawaf of Hajj and offer its prayer, followed by sa'i between Safa and Marwa, and finally Tawafun Nisa and its prayer.
لبيك اللهم لبيك لبيك لا شريك لك لبيك إن الحمد والنعمة لك والملك لا شريك لك لبيك لا شريك لك لبيك